Superbug.
Welcome back everyone to another NRG, and here we are with Manic Miner yet again. I love this game, I really do, and this is why I try to showcase it on my channel quite a bit. And here is the MSX version, a much underrated version in my humble opinion. I think this is a rather excellent version of the game actually. We've got the familiar title screen, obviously taken away from the original Spectrum version, something the Amstrad version didn't do, of course. It gave us an original title screen. But here we go into the central cover, and as you can see, with the MSX we have a little shift in the colour palette again. Every time we put on a different version of Manic Miner, we have a slight shift in the colour palette. So the pastel colours here are coming out rather nicely, and it seems to work rather well indeed. I like it's very smooth indeed. I like the smooth animation, the smooth jumping, excellent responses. Old Miner Willie himself looking very, very white. There's a little bit of a woke joke there for you. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's go to the old schnozzle monster. I don't know what the Clockwork Schmozzle monster I'm going to call him. Let's go over him now. We obviously get a little bit of clashing with the Miner Willie sprites on the platforms. You can see where the graphical colour lines are there, using the obviously the MSX's limited ability. But I tell you what, it just works really well. I like the shift in the sound effects as well. Got a nice Hall of the Mountain King tune playing. I do like the title screen music as well. The original title screen music is a really nice rendition as well. And the sound of the jump, different of course. The sound of the jump was obviously replicated from the Spectrum original onto the Amstrad and onto the Commodore as well. And of course I think several remake Windows versions and the Game Boy version reused that sound effect. But here on the MSX we have a slightly different sort of sound effect. It's more of a tinkly version, like a bell's tinkling. And it's kind of nice, it's a kind of nice sound. Yeah, I really do like playing this version. There's something about it that it's I can't put my finger on it. It's something very, very appealing about this version of it. I mean, my first choice is always the Amstrad version, and you know, Spectrum version very, very good. But I always prefer the Spectrum, the Amstrad version over the Spectrum version, should I say? And I got to admit, I think the MSX version is probably my second favourite version of the game. Just love the way it plays, love the way it sounds. It has that sort of MSX style to it that you wouldn't have thought would work with such a simple game, but it does. And I like it. I like it a lot. Menagerie, done. Very easy to play this. I find it. I like the fact that I always found on the Spectrum version, the Spectrum original, that sometimes the jumping mechanic was a bit off. Sometimes you had to get used to it. I mean, it was perfectly fine. I'm not saying it's bad, but sometimes you got to make sure you were always in the right, facing in the right direction, should I say, on platforms and stuff like that, on conveyor belts. And there's a certain different mechanic going on in certain different versions of the game. If you push back against, if you're facing back against the direction of a conveyor belt and press the other way, then you'll just jump on the spot. In the Commodore version and the MSX version, you'll actually jump in the opposite direction, which you technically shouldn't be able to do, but you do. So you've got to get used to that, and therefore adapt the way you play certain levels, because certain levels require you to jump up and down on a conveyor belt, which you couldn't do in this version of the game. But here we are with Eugene's Lair. Of course, the original title for the level, the famous Level 5, renamed Eugene Was Here on the Amstrad, I believe. The only thing that's missing from this that is unfortunate is there's no sound effect for when you collect the keys, when you collect the items. That sound effect is sadly missing, which is a shame. Because you get that on the Amstrad version, you get that on the Spectrum version, and you get that on the Commodore version. Very nice sound effect on the Commodore version, actually. Let's get this jump right. And over we go, and over we're back. Boom, done. And the flashing of the escape cell as well is a lot more subtle on the MSX version. Yeah, only a tiny little bit of change in colour there. And off we go to the processing plant, the Pac-Man level. I suppose the sharpness of the sprites, the enemy sprites, is not as brilliant as it is on the Specky and the Amstrad, and certainly the Commodore. And it's slightly faster as well. There's a slightly quick turn of speed now and then. It's not paced in exactly the same way, almost, but you do notice it if you're an avid player of the game like myself. It's very nuanced. It's very subtle. You can't really notice it, to be honest, if you just pick up and play the game. But if you've been playing the Amstrad and the Spectrum version for years on years, and then pick this up, there is a slight difference in the speed of the game, the speed of the enemies sometimes. The timing is pretty much spot on. A couple of levels I've discovered. Oh, I missed that. Go right to the edge there. Woo! Got it. Yeah, so a couple of the enemies I've noticed that you will have to adjust slightly, but not many. The VAT, I always like. Well, I remember the first time I played the VAT, I looked at it and I thought, oh my word, that looks hard. And then I realised actually it's not that hard at all. Especially when you compare it to like Solar Power Generator and the Warehouse. Really tough levels like that. So I think we'll get through the VAT. We'll go on to the Donkey Kong spoof level. Miner Willie meets the Kong Beast. And yeah, we'll get that done and then we'll call it a day. But this is a particularly nice version of the game and I do like it indeed. I wonder if if there was any later version on the MSX using the MSX's enhancements later on. I don't think that they do exist. I think it's just this version. Jump up and down over the yellow rat, and off we go to the Kong Beast. Over we go. So the same colour palette as the central cavern. This bit, you see, you've got to jump in that direction to jump directly up. See, the Commodore version doesn't do that. You actually completely jump in the other direction. So that was a sort of slight nuanced difference. I don't think there's any sound effect as also when you tip the Kong Beast into the cell as well, unfortunately. Don't think there's a sound effect there, but hey ho, you can't have everything, but I tell you what, it's crisp, it's clean, it's well drawn, it plays really nicely. I like the sound of the sound effect, and the tune is really nicely rendered. Really nicely rendered tune on the title screen and on the game itself. Yes, it's a good version. Is there ever a bad version of Manic Miner? There probably is. I will find it. But thanks for watching, and I'm going to tip the Kong Beast into the drink and bid you farewell. Here he goes, and he's gone. Novabug, out.